But yeah, let's get started. So we're here with Scott Hammond, who actually famously taught me my IASE level 2 exams. It's not really taught, is it? I suppose it's like what would you call that?
Well,
Assessed.
yeah. Well, hello. Firstly, thanks for having me on, Adam. Yeah, straight into the questions.
I completely forgot.
Yeah. No. It's yeah. I mean, it's guidance really. We try and give you the tools to work things out yourself. Obviously we try and correct your skiing along the way, but it's a guidance. It's a program of making sure you're getting the right information for you to put it in place for to develop you as a skier individually, but also see how the rest of the team is getting on at the same time.
Yeah, because
But I guess we do teach. We do teach along the way, but
yeah.
it's not a ski lesson. It's yeah, it's a bit different, a bit
I
more
must
intense.
admit though, it does feel more of it feels more of a lesson than it does an exam, if you know what I mean. Because I always say to people, I'm like, to be perfectly honest, for what you pay really for that week, you'd struggle to go on any camp for that amount of money. And actually, in a way, you're getting a higher level of teaching, whatever you want to call it, along with actually something that you typically wouldn't get on a camp, which is some honest feedback, criticism, advice at the end. So in a way, doing those levels is in certain ways kind of better than a camp, which is the reason I actually did it in the first place is because of that. Not because I knew that would be the case, but because I thought it might be the case, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, some of the camps that you go on. I mean, there's some very high level instructors and educators there at the same level as myself and all the other guys I work with. But the camps are set up differently. I think that the way the education system goes, we have a step by step. We're trying to get you. We're going to do some longs, some shorts, some bumps, some variables. We're going to do some teaching. We're going to do all of that. So it's structured in its way, and it's about so that you get the insight to be able to teach yourself how to teach others along the way. And as
Yeah,
you said, it's great value because whatever it is, £675, I think the IASE course is. I think if you want an instructor for the day in the Alps, it's 500 quid
yeah,
probably. So you're
yeah,
getting a week of instruction, and it's all day. And there's plenty of feedback, and also you're getting the theoretical stuff as well to give you a bit more to understand, what you're doing. And you say it's like a lesson, or it's you mentioned exam. I try to steer it as much away from feeling like an exam as possible, because under exam situations people panic, they stress, so you try and make it feel like it's just you're out skiing with your mates or whatever. You try to hold a professional level, but at the same time it's about keeping people happy and calm so that then they can perform at their best.
yeah. No, it was absolutely incredible. I would recommend that anyone who skis, it doesn't matter what level you are. I think if you've never done your level one, although they are worlds apart to be honest, but even if you haven't, it's such a good way to sort of almost just validate that you're on the right path and to get some feedback and tuition and information that you know is accurate. Do you know what I mean? Because the thing is, even if you went on a really high level camp, touch wood, all mine have been amazing. I must admit, I've never been on one and thought it was bad, but you don't really know that what you're being taught is like the correct way, if you know what I mean. And I know there's lots of different systems, but those systems are typically along similar lines. Like the Austrian and the Australian, even though they vary quite a lot, they're sort of similar, aren't they, in their approach? It gives you that like that sort of validation that you're actually working towards something that is going to serve you a purpose like long term, rather than getting to a point where your technique is not going to be proficient to carry you past a certain point, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, the ski technique is built around the equipment. It's changed from when the 30, 40 years ago when the skis were long and straight and the boots were different. That there's still a great deal of fundamentals that are the same as they were back then, but the thing is to ski on the equipment correctly, you have to ski a certain way. So therefore, the Australian, the Austrian, the Swiss, the British, whatever, they're all basically the same because you need to do a certain thing to make the equipment work. It changes between associations down to the mountains you ski on, or maybe the snow is a bit different. You can see very much the difference if you are lucky enough to ever attend an interski, for example. You can see all the different nations
Yeah,
skiing down and skiing their certain way, and you will see that not only the cultures that they are. You can see that the Italians and the Spanish and the South Americans ski with a lot of flair, and that's in their culture.
yeah,
You'll see that the Scandinavian, or especially Norway and Sweden, may have a bit of a freedom to their skiing in the sense of we very much think of we don't want to teach you to ski a certain way. We want you to ski what is effective because we have a race background and racers ski effectively rather than we say function over form, if that
yeah,
makes sense. Whereas your Austrians and your Swiss and your Germans will ski normally quite not robotic or mechanical, but they are that bit. They're Germanic. They're
yeah,
way, and then you can go to the Asian guys, your Koreans and your Japanese and stuff, and they're very technical because they're technically minded people. But
yeah,
also, the snow has something to do with the way they ski as well. So you can see that skier may have an earlier edge set, and that skier may have a later edge set, or an up movement and a down movement. But it's snow based, but also technical in relation to the culture. So it's quite interesting to see the way these guys do it differently. But at the end of the day, as I said to you, push it down and turn it. That's what it's about. It's
yeah.
getting turn. How you do that, that's the mastery.
Yeah, because there was this summer that I went to Zermatt, and none of the normal, my normal instructors were available, so they had to find me these sort of like I don't know what you'd call them, like just freelance kind of instructors. And we, as it happened, in the 3 days, we had three different Italian instructors, and at that time, I'd only been skiing for maybe like a year, and um, they were telling us to do things that were totally the opposite to everything that we'd already learned along the way. So they were basically saying, turn your body where you want to go, and your feet will follow. And because I'd geeked out and watched 10 zillion videos, I kind of knew that that was like wrong, if you like, in inverted commas, even though they made it look incredible. By the way, they didn't look like they weren't good skiers, they looked sensational. But it was at that point when I started thinking, no, I need to try and find some kind of system that is gonna allow me to stay on that sort of path until I get where I need to be, if that makes sense. But what that's kind of what made me go down that sort of level one route in the first place, was so I had a fixed way of thinking, like a methodology that I knew would be capable enough to take me as far as I could physically go. But what made you in the first place go down the route of like A, being a ski instructor, and then B, getting to the level where you are, where you've followed it the whole way through to the highest level, to the point where now you're teaching other instructors how to become instructors?
Yeah, my story's a bit of a strange one. I'll try and keep it short. I was brought up in South Africa, and I was walking through a shopping centre or something. I was about 6 years old, and I saw one of these revolving carpet in its earliest forms. And I remember saying to my dad, "Oh, what's that?" And he said, "That's skiing. Can't do that. We live in South Africa." I said, "Well, they are." And anyway, for some reason, it sat with me. And then I
Wow,
think
and so they were around in the 1960s.
uh, that's all she get. And this would have been about 1977, I guess. I'm showing
That's
my age
crazy.
now.
I didn't even know they were exist. I thought it was a new
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. No, it was back then.
Wow.
It was a company called the Springbok Ski Club,
Oh wow.
and then we moved back to the UK, and I remember seeing a documentary about ski instructors, and I went to school, you know, London Crownwood School, and I got given a, you know, what do you want to do when you grow up sort of form, and I put ski instructor. I'd never been skiing.
Oh
And,
really?
yeah, and so I went skiing with the school.
Where
Didn't
did you
really.
go?
Uh, I was. We went to a place called Valsenales, which is on the north northeast Italian border, and you actually ski down into Austria and
Oh
get a
wow.
lift from Austria and then back up. There's a glacier up there. And then, so went there for a week with the school, and I just loved it. I was a BMXer and tried skateboarding, and so I was sort of in that more sort of free sports type way, even though I was growing up in the middle of London. And yeah, I don't know, and I just fell in love with it. So I left school when I was 15, did a print apprenticeship, finished that, and I decided to go and do a ski season in 1991. Watched all of these amazing Italian ski instructors. I was in Cervinia. Didn't really think much more about it. Then I went to Verbier for 9 years and was
So,
just
but
free
when
riding.
you went to Trevino, you was a ski season as an instructor, were you?
No,
Or
no, just went ski bumming. Just went skiing.
ah,
So, and then I moved to Norway in 2004, and then I decided to start my education because I was working in a little ski resort just up the road here, and they kept saying to me, do you want to teach in the ski school?" It was a tiny ski, and I said, "Well, I'm not a instructor, so I guess I should start my education." So from my initial thought of it when I was 7, I started it when I was 34. So, or 30, yeah, 34. So, and then, but because I'd had so much skiing in me already,
yeah.
as I went through the system, I went through the Norwegian system, the DNS it's called, Den Norske Skiskole, the Norwegian ski schools. I went through the first couple of levels, and the educators there said, "Oh, you can ski, you should go all the way." So so I did my Alpine and telemark at the same time. So I have the highest qualification in both Alpine and telemark, and I'm an educator in both Alpine and telemark. So yeah, that was how I did it. And then I knew some of the guys from the uh, Irish system from my days in Verbier, and I bumped into Pete Gillespie, who runs the ski school in the Snow Centre in Hemel Hempstead, and he invited me over to come over and start the telemark education for IAZ, which I did, and we've been running courses now for about 12 years with IAZ, and then started becoming an Alpine educator after that. So
So all those years you were skiing from when you were young until when you started doing your instructor training. During that time, how did you improve? Because there was no like instructionals on YouTube, I'm guessing at that point.
no, no, just skied a lot, skied with good skiers, watched what they were doing, asked advice, But it was still it. I still, when I started my ski instructor, even my level one, I got pulled apart and put back together.
Yeah,
Even though I could ski, I'd been skiing in Verbier for 9 seasons and skied nearly everywhere there, and yeah, they pulled me apart and put me back together because there was a lot of bad habits,
yeah, I
you
can
know,
imagine.
to get
Yeah,
down, and that was when the eye opener started to happen. Talking about where you put the pressure and why you put the pressure and what happens when you do put the pressure and how that happens and the differences of turning a ski and edging a ski and rotating a ski and blending and all of these different things that we have as a ski instructor that you learn through the pathway. All of a sudden it makes you understand, and I think it's the how, what, and the why. It's how do you do it, what do you do, and why do you do it. Sometimes the why is quite big, and you don't get that on a ski lesson. Because sometimes you might have a great ski instructor, but he's never been a educator, and so they don't know that part of the puzzle, you know.
So if you had someone come on a course who was like you and they'd been skiing really proficiently for a very long time, but had essentially never really been trained, I don't know, properly, do you think that would you find that harder to teach that person than you would someone who was fairly new but had had lessons?
I think it can be sometimes because obviously they can ski well, but there's often people, I teach a lot of people, and they don't, they come along and they say, I feel like I've plateaued, and that plateau in skiing is a long and lonely place.
Yeah,
You know, it really is, because you get to a point, and you do need that how, what, and why. You
yeah,
do need to know, well, what happens if I push down there in my ski boot, you know, and giving someone a frame of reference for making something happen, and being able to understand where the mistake was and why it was going wrong. And that can often cause someone to plateau for quite a long time. So, but everyone's individual. So sometimes you get people that just pick it up. Some people take on the information,
yeah.
and it's never steps 1 to 10. You know, sometimes you go 1 to 7, and then back to 3, and then onwards to 11. It's being able to, like I say, take that skier, take them apart, put them back together again.
Yeah,
What you want.
because when I did a Stompit camp last year, and those guys they were very very good. I must say they were really good. But the people that were on the course, they were all the students. They were all at a very similar stage. They were all exactly like you'd say. They'd plateaued for a long time, so they'd all been skiing for 20 years, maybe 10, 15, 20 years. All been skiing since they were young. Every single one of them. I was the only person had only been skiing a short period of time, but it was weird because even though they were all super fast, could ski anything, you know, had no sort of confidence issues or anything like that, they all were at exactly the same point. They were, and the biggest problem with every single one of them that actually fundamentally changed them, and they did this on day one, was just to not be sitting down in the back. That was the very first day, and that all they focused on was getting you in the front of your boot. And it went from these people that looked, even though they were going fast and with confidence, as someone who like was really interested in technique, to me it looked messy. But actually, just by the end of that day one, just by bringing them into the front of their boot, all of a sudden they looked like completely different skiers. But they'd all been stuck at this exact same stage, you know, 10 people for 10 years. And it was quite an interesting thing to see, because once they'd got through that, then you could really tell how good each skier was, because when they were in the right position, all of a sudden they weren't the same anymore. They were all completely unique in their style, their ability, and everything else. It was quite an interesting transformation. But the funny thing was, the whole week the instructor was getting me to do all the demos, because even though I hadn't skied very long, the way that I was skiing was technically correct. Do you know
Yeah,
what I mean? Yeah.
yeah.
So, he said to me at the end, he said it was much easier working with you than it was with them, even though they'd been skiing forever, because they had so many bad habits that you had to like manipulate and change rather than just a fresh piece of paper sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that, adventure sports, many sports, even something like golf as well, people are very good at getting to a level, and then they just go, oh, I can do this now. And they just carry on.
Yeah.
And by investing a little bit I think you should do your bit of a homework and find the right ski instructor that works for you. Today we have that possibility with the internet and, individual companies and things you can go in and ask and prepare yourself. But I think that people can't get to that plateau because, I can carve. I love it when I say, how well do you ski? Oh, I can ski a black slope. Well, anyone can ski a black slope. It's not about how, it's not if you can do it, it's how you can do it.
Yeah, 100%.
And, well, you follow me down a black slope and we'll find out if you can ski it or not. You can ski a blue slope, but can you, let's look at how you do it. So, And I think that, having someone like yourself, for example, who's new to it but started off with education, you started off getting lessons and loved it. You're a sucker for technique. You get in there, and so therefore it was probably very easy for the Stompit guy to say, "Well, he's doing everything right, even though he's the least experienced." And one thing that we see over here in Norway is the Norwegians are very, very good at skiing, but they're actually very good at skiing incorrectly. They've just been doing it a long time.
Yeah.
You see the Danes and the Brits and the Dutch, for example, they always take ski school because they can't ski, whereas Norwegians have grown up running around in the forest. They
Yeah.
got crazy balance. My daughter walks out the house, it'd be sheet ice, and she walks across it, don't even fall over, or look like she's going to fall over,
Yeah.
because she's got experience of walking on slippery stuff.
Yeah.
And we see that even though the flatlanders are or people that are newer to skiing are not as proficient of getting down the mountain with speed as the Norwegians. Technically, they actually ski in a better position. They've got
Yeah.
better balance. They've done the drills. They've learnt how to stand, and that is something that is quite often. And we see that it was actually very interesting in COVID because we were open here and the borders were shut, and so for the first time, I'm sitting on the chairlift, and pretty much the only people that were skiing were Norwegians. So normally we sit in the chairlift or you're standing there, you don't know who's from where.
No.
There's people skiing. Well, they were just Norwegians. And I was going, oh, they're really not that good.
Yeah, it's funny because going back to that camp again, even though when we were doing things in slow motion, and it was all focused on technique and doing things in a nice way, as soon as we actually skied, I was miles behind everybody else. They were all steaming ahead of me like no problems whatsoever, whereas I was at the back petrified trying to keep up. But yeah, they lacked the technique. It was almost like I needed their experience and confidence to add to my technique, and they needed my technique to add to their confidence, and then we would have all been like much better skiers. But it was
Yeah.
quite an interesting journey to watch, especially now I look back as someone who's done like teaching qualifications to watch, like to think about what they did with that group of people, how they did it, how they progressed them so quickly, and how they, before anyone even turned up, knew that everybody's problem would be sitting in the back seat. They just presumed and knew immediately that that would be what everyone's problem was, and
Yeah.
fundamentally it was. And the rest of the
Mm.
week really was a question of doing what they could already do, but doing it not in the back seat. And that was almost for them like learning from scratch again because they
Mm.
obviously were brand new to that thing. But it was really interesting to watch how they advanced through that. And one thing I remember as well when we did the that level 2 in cursed Hintertux, I call it. Um, that place is insane. Um, what a wild place that is. It's like the Wild West, isn't it, Hintertux?
Yeah.
It's just such a crazy place. Even now, I look at the weather like every morning. I just get up, have a look at the weather on all the mountain resorts. And Hintertux, it's like 36 degrees here. And in Hintertux, it's like dropping 10 centimetres of snow with 100-mile-an-hour winds. And you're like, man, that place is just bizarre. And even when
Yeah.
you look at Zermatt is quite tranquil and peaceful. But Hintertux is just, I don't know, it's like the Bermuda or something, that place. It's just wild.
It gets
Um,
them with it, doesn't it?
Absolutely crazy place. But it was on that course, there was a lot of things that you were saying that kind of changed the way that I thought about everything again. Because when you sort of go on this journey of actually trying to be technically better, it's so easy to get caught up in every last little detail of every single thing that you do. Whereas the whole time, really, you were trying to sort of bring everything back to some very basic principles. And it was actually letting the other things go and not focusing on 100,000 different things at once and just thinking about the simplistic sort of methodology that I think pushed everyone on a fair bit, especially me, because normally I'm thinking about at least 30 different things on every turn. Do you know what I mean? So to actually strip that out and just bring it back to something like, really basic, just look. I think it was look, like pressure, and just turn the ski. Sort of change everything. But do you find that that works for people that are fairly new and haven't done it very much at all? Like say someone who's been on one ski holiday for 5 days, and then they come to you in Norway and they want to do some lessons. Can you take that same approach with them, or is that something that was more because our group had a bit more experience?
No, absolutely not. Like you said, it's the basic fundamentals of what you do. To if you're riding, probably all of your listeners, probably every one of them can ride a bike. You think about how you ride a bike. But the first thing you do is you look where you're going, and then the bike goes there. You're sitting in a car. You look if you're going to turn left. You don't just turn left. You look first, and then the car comes around. You get out of bed. The first thing you do is you look, and then you go there. You don't walk around with blinkers on. It's and from the basics of what you do, the absolute new beginner skier, well, they need to look where they're going to get there. And if you look at the world's best Michaela Schifrin ski racer, well, to get over from the blue gate to the red gate, first thing she needs to do is look at it, and then she needs to put the pressure on the ski and turn it and go over there. It's the of course. Then you have like you said, the multitude of different details based around that. But that starts to come in when we increase the speed, the steepness, changing snow conditions, desired outcomes, blah, blah, blah. Then there's more or less of each of those little fundaments. But the basic of it is you need to look where you're going, otherwise you can't go there. You're going to crash into something. And if you don't push your ski down, you can't turn it.
Yeah, it's funny because
You turn it as much as you like. It's not going to get you there.
it's funny because the idea of looking where you're going is something that we all it's a silly conversation really, because it's such a basic thing, isn't it? Like we take it for granted, we don't ever think about it, but every single thing that we do, we have to look to it before we do it. But that idea of actually like looking where you're going before you go there had been something that I don't think many people had brought up, and definitely not like settled on as a very fixed part of technique that really changed quite a lot for me. And actually when I'm trying to tell like my friends and stuff how to sort of push on a little bit, I always start with that now, and I say, look, just look, just all to think about at the moment, don't even worry about what your legs are doing, just look where you want to go, and try to only think about looking where you're wanting to go, and then don't worry about anything else. And immediately, even without the pressure and the turning and everything else, they just immediately are better. And it's quite an amazing thing. And I even noticed as well, as you know, like I'm into my lawn, and normally what I do when I do the stripes, the first one has to be along a straight edge, and then all the other ones thereafter, they follow that straight edge. But what I've worked out recently is literally based off of your the whole idea of like the look first thing, is if you actually fixate your eyes on something at the other end, and you don't have to stare at it religiously, but if you just roughly kind of keep looking at it, you can do the straightest lawn line you've ever known in your entire life. It's unbelievable, and all you're doing is looking, and you can get these incredible straight lines. Whereas before, I really thought I had to follow an existing one, and it works. Like for anyone listening who's into lawn, try it. Look at the other end, and you can just do the most dead straight lines. So whereas before I was always looking on the floor and following the line, now, and it relates to this, I look up, I pick an object where I want to go, and I go,
And you
and
go
my
there.
yeah, I know, but it's what a like simplistic thing that actually is quite revolutionary. The more you actually think about it, and even when you're
Yeah.
driving a car, if you really think, if you actually look at what you're like, think about what you're doing, you always do make these tiny little movements to look before you go everywhere. And the more I've thought about it over and over again, the more I've implemented it into my skiing, the better my skiing has become, without even addressing any of the stuff that comes thereafter from the point of pressure.
My brother is or was he doesn't ski anymore, but he was a very good skier. Done yeah, 20 odd seasons in Verbier, and he was a very, very good skier. And I went over to visit him, and he said, you know, I'd done all my exams, and he said, go on then, give us a tip. And I thought, oh, you know, it's my big brother. And I said, all right, ski down. And he skied down. I said, right, get your eyes up and look into your turn. And he said, well, what about? I said, just do that. And he went off down the slope and he did about 5 or 6 turns and he put the brakes on and pulled up. And I thought, oh, I've upset him now. And I went down to him. I said, what's up? He went, why didn't someone tell me that 20 years ago?
Yeah, it's quite amazing, really. And I've not. You do hear like when you watch some of these high level videos, and they sort of say, you know, look to the next turn, look 2 turns ahead, all of these different kinds of things. But it's almost too complicated. What you were basically saying is just head up, look where you want to go, and you'll go there. Which, and I wanted to bring this up on this because I think it's so important. Because if you speak to 99% of people and you say, what's the first thing that you do when you're about to make a turn? I think the vast majority will say pressure the outside ski. I think that's probably what most people would say. Some people might say turn it, I guess. But I think most people, even proficient instructors, would say pressure the outside ski and then turn it. But the one thing that has always sort of been missed off of that has been just to look, and it makes such a huge difference. And the other thing as well, what I noticed as well with people that are just sort of a bit earlier on than I am, they all want to look down. And actually, the best way to get them to look up is to just tell them not to look up, because that's easier said than done.
It's a
But
little
actually,
unnatural.
yeah, but to tell them to look where you want to go, not some distant point in the, or you know, in the distance, but actually just roughly where you want to go. Like, if you want to go right, look right. If you want to go left, look left. And it really does change everything. All of a sudden, they're a bit more stood up, which means they tend to be in a nicer position. And then all of a sudden, they're just making these much more like proficient turns that look better on the eye when you're watching them. And I think for anyone listening that is kind of looking to improve on their technique, even if you're a really incredible skier, to just think about that very first thing instead of being pressure in the ski, but actually to look. Yeah, and I think if I ever do teach anyone properly, I will always start with that idea of actually looking and having that as part of that natural order of things. Because before, all I was thinking was, right, stand on the outside ski, or whatever phrase you want to use, pressure the outside ski, turn the ski. But I was missing something that was actually really important, and you want it to be part of your you know, your natural process, that you don't have to think about it. So I think if you teach people that right from the very beginning, it would make a huge difference to their skiing.
I think a lot of it comes down to the way that we're built, and that is that whenever you make a movement, you start every movement and you start with the smaller muscles. Then the bigger muscles take over, and then the body turns and rotate, and the skeleton holds us up on the inside. So, if basically when you're skiing, you need to stand over your feet, and you need to have your knees in front of your toes, and your hips over your feet, and your upper body sitting over the top of your hips a little bit forward. If you look down, you don't just, it's hard to do it without showing it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
If you look at your feet, then you're using just your eyes. And then what you will do is your eyes are going to get tired because they're the smaller muscles. So naturally, to look at our feet, what we will do is we will shift our hips backwards to look at our feet, which means your hips are now behind you
Yeah,
and not over your feet, which means you are now skiing in the wrong position. What we were talking about earlier with all of your guests on the Stomp Pit camp, which meant that they're leaning back, probably because they're looking too far down.
yeah,
If you lift your
100%.
head up and look ahead, you can bring your hips up and put them over your feet. So it has a dual purpose of getting your body correctly placed over your skis, or more importantly, correctly placed over your feet, so that then you can use that to go where you want to go. So it has a dual purpose. I mean, it's you can force someone into the right position by tricking them by using your eyes. So you're moving 85 kilos into the right spot by using 40 grams that are stuck in the middle of your face. if that makes sense.
Yeah. And if you walk along a pavement, for example, and I've been trying this, if you walk in a straight line, but turn your head and look somewhere else, but try and continue walking a straight line, it won't do it. It's
Yeah.
so difficult to do. Like, it's so difficult. So it shows you the power of that, and it's something I wanted to bring up on here because it's something that you don't ever really hear about, apart from at really high level where they're starting to say like, look, this amount of turns ahead, this that, and that always feels a little bit far removed from somebody who's a little bit earlier on than someone who's going to really relate to that. But the question I was going to ask you as well is obviously you're at a ridiculously high level of skiing experience, qualifications, the whole lot. As you transferred from being a like recreational sort of do it as you want skier to where you are now, or even a bit earlier on in your sort of qualification journey, what were the like one, two, three big things that you found really helped you transfer your skills from being that sort of recreational skier into a highly technical able skier? Did you find things along the way that were like these big moments for you that then sort of helped you push on?
Yeah, we call them in the Norwegian system the aha moments.
Yeah.
Um,
I was trying to think of the word. What is it when you like an epiphany? That
an
that sort of thing.
epiphany,
Yeah,
yeah.
that kind
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah.
I was very lucky. I had some brilliant trainers, as you know, hopefully everyone does. And the biggest one for me was actually get your eyes up. I mean, that really did do everything because I felt my body hitting the right place. But the biggest one for me was actually learning to telemark ski properly because you've got more room for error. The balance point is more specific, and to do that properly, or not properly, but to be able to do it to a proficient level to get around blues and reds, and if you're lucky enough to, or you get as far as going off piste and bumps and stuff like that on tellies, that to me was the one that really got me into the right position because you don't have the alpine beefiness to be able to beast the turn.
Yeah.
You are attached at the toe,
Yeah.
and a lot can go wrong. And just learning how to telemark for me was the one that, and I noticed it on the years where I telemarked for literally a whole season and didn't alpine ski, and then one day I put my alpine skis on, and my skiing had gone up quite a level because of the balance point and the technique required to do telemark skiing. But I think that another big one for me was being able to finish the season and then halfway through the season starting to not mindfully, but yeah, I guess you can call it mindfully approaching the technique and creating those muscle memories in the
Yeah.
summer, so that when you put your skis back on, all the work you've done over the winter where you've been trying to get things to happen, it does take, there's that thing, the 10,000 hours or the 10,000 golf swings or whatever it may be. That really was, to me, was a huge step up to be able to access the movements by not skiing.
Oh,
Because
really? So was that more to do with fitness, or was that to do with actually practicing technique, movement, balance type things? Like off the slope, or was it a mixture of both?
it was more of a mental thing, just memorizing the movements, actually feeling the movements, that I often get people to stand still. Here in Norway we're very lucky, it's very still, and sometimes we can stand there on a slope and it's completely empty, and I just say close your eyes, and you say, when was the last time you heard nothing?
Yeah.
And just now, I just want you to feel your feet. I want you to feel the front of your boots. I want you to feel where your hips are. let's and getting that feeling of how it should feel rather than how you think it should look. Let's because skiing is a feeling.
Yeah.
When you make that turn and it, as you know, you make that turn and you come out of it and you go, where's the next one?
Yeah.
To be able to access that mindful part of it without not. I'm not talking about sitting down in a dark room with joss sticks and yoga music, but
Yeah.
but there is a place in all sports for mindfully visualizing the movement, mindfully visualizing the position and where you should be. And I think that those were the three things: was getting my eyes up and looking where I'm going to find the correct position. I found an immediate change.
Yeah.
Uh, Telemarking, because just purely because of the balance and what it requires, but then also putting myself in that state where I could go, that's how it should feel, and doing it in the off season rather than constantly battling when I was actually skiing. So those were the three biggest ones for me.
So did you do like ski type exercises that would help you with your skiing? Like I've seen people online doing all sorts of things, where they sit on the chairs and they go from chair to chair, and certain exercises as well where they jump up on boxes from side. There's all these different. I can't think of any, but there's loads. Have you ever done that kind of training to sort of help you with that type of movement?
Yes, yeah. I mean, the ones I did the most was probably when I was going for my level 4 in the Norwegian system. I know in some of the other systems you have something called trick turns, where you have to be skiing on the inside ski and doing little jumps and stuff. I did that in the summer. So I was jumping from foot to foot and, skipping down the road like a 12-year-old girl sort of thing,
Yeah.
you know, uh, and, working out the timings and where my feet should be and, um, and also specific training for core strength and movement. So I still go to the gym regularly, and all year I specifically train skiing movements to make sure that those muscles are working in that right way, and I'm strong enough to deal with the forces that we get in a high speed turn or short turns or whatever. You need skiing. You need explosiveness. You need to be able to have endurance. It's not either or.
No.
So mostly the training I did was the that very specific training was for the short turns, yeah, or,
Yeah.
or for the trick turn. Sorry, which was
Yeah.
quite fun.
Yeah, it's funny because when I very first started skiing, and I remember going to Zermatt for the very first time and sitting on the chairlift and watching people come down, and in Zermatt, the quality of skier over there is the highest I've seen anywhere. Probably there in Verbier actually, but in Zermatt specifically, there seems to be a ridiculously high number of very, very good skiers. Like you can sit there on the lift, and normally it's like, right, 10 minutes of not very good skiing, and then you get one really good skier. In Zermatt, it's the opposite. It's
Yeah,
it's, it's it's incredible. And I remember sitting on the lift and looking at the people that, even without knowing anything, you can tell they're good because it looked so effortless and easy and graceful and elegant. I remember thinking, oh well, that looks easy. Which was the biggest mistake I've ever made, because I think from watching those good skiers, it's even like when you watch you, it looks so easy. It makes you forget it's a sport, if you get what I mean. Because they look like they're just out having a stroll, but actually now I know they're not at all. They're grafting under that helmet. But I think one of the biggest mistakes I ever made with skiing from the beginning was to forget that it is an actual high level sport, and to be good, you have to have a high level of fitness. High level of motivation, high level of kind of mental health, in order, to get better, you have to have all these things, the same as any sport that you would ever do. But because the better someone skis, in my opinion, the easier they make it look. it's very easy, like I did, to start thinking, oh, actually, I should be able to just potter around, but be doing 100 mile an hour and be looking perfect. When in reality, actually, the more you put into it, the better your skiing becomes. But it was so easy to look at these people just so graceful, gliding around, and think that they weren't doing anything.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? I mean, your best skier is one that is the one who's looking the most graceful. Um, I think a good friend of mine once said, "Skiing is a sport that requires fitness, doesn't create fitness." If you run, you're going to get fitter. Of course, you'll get more ski fit, but it doesn't really help with the actual fitness. It does require external training,
Yeah,
and because you're saying, oh, they're going down the slope at 100 mile an hour. Well, if you take anything and put it on a slope, gravity doesn't care. You know,
no,
friction doesn't care. It's going to be there, and if it's icy, it's going to go quicker. And the steepness is going to add to that speed. So speed, anyone can go down the slopes fast, but respond to and to create the forces and respond to the forces, that requires fitness. You
yeah,
know,
100%, yeah,
you when you're talking about the guys and the girls who do the downhill, they're going 140, 150 kilometers an hour. Was that 95 miles an hour? When they're going into some of those turns, some of them have been measured at 2.5 G,
yeah,
and that's G force. That's equivalent. So if you weigh 100 kilos, that's 250 kilos of
yeah,
pressure, to put it simply, on your legs, back, shoulders. And you've got to get over there to that gate as quick as you can. So it requires a great deal of skill, great deal of fitness in every joint, every muscle in your body. So yes, it does. It does require fitness. But to go in a straight line, yeah, well, anyone can do that.
yeah, 100%, yeah.
Can't do
But
it
it's
in
quite
swimming.
it is quite amazing that you don't when you because when you watch people do it, it looks so effortless. Good people. I mean, when you watch someone bad, it looks like they're putting in a shift because you can see they're hanging on for dear life. But when you watch someone really really good, that it just looks so easy that it almost is this misconception that you feel like you should be able to do it without putting much effort in either. But what you don't realize is the incredible forces that they're resisting. They're just that strong and that fit and that used to it that they that they can do it. But as soon as I started thinking about it more as an active sport rather than just like this relaxing thing that you can do, that also was a massive thing to actually help me get better. And now it's probably the one thing I'm focusing on more than anything else, because I think that will probably be at this point like the biggest thing I can do to get better is not more technique but actually more fitness, more strength, and then obviously more practice. But yeah, I found when you actually think about this stuff, which I have been since your course I did with you more than anything else, was trying to simplify everything. Actually, the looking where you're going, fitness, and all these other things, they're actually the things that are the biggest changes are the most simple, easy to understand things. They're not the detail of some 4.5 balance or something else. It's those actual big core simple things that have the hugest effect. And actually, when you think about most things in life, it tends to be the way, doesn't it? Like the simplest things are the most effective. But for
Yeah,
some reason, with skiing, you can get so caught up in deep levels of all of these different techniques and words and all these things. It can kind of almost take you off track a little bit. And I remember once an instructor, this grumpy instructor that I had, he said, "Oh, all these videos online, they just confuse people, blah blah blah." But now I kind of understand what he means, because actually, even though they didn't like confuse me, I understood every word they were saying. They confused me in the fact that I thought too much about them, if that made sense. Whereas actually dialing it all back, working on the most simplistic things, starting literally with your body, is probably the biggest thing you can do to progress your skills. Sorry. Someone's at the front door in case you didn't know. Um, but yeah, but I'll tell you one thing, another thing I wanted to ask you about as well, because it's quite interesting that you obviously live and work in Norway. Because if you was to, ask any randomer on the street about a ski place, they would not say Norway. So tell us a little bit about skiing in Norway, like that people would be interested to know. What makes Norway different to Verbier? Although I'm comparing a
Um,
country to a ski
yeah,
resort there.
more moose. We've got more moose. Yeah. So no, I mean well, Norway's the home of skiing. It was pretty much invented here,
Yeah.
so they know what they're doing. Um, the the snow is better. The snow's amazing. Not we're not talking about when you think about great snow. Everyone's talking about Japan or Utah. I'm not talking about the powder. When it does snow here, it's the snow, but it's the snow on piste. Norway is a colder country. It's further north. But the trick to the snow is the lack of humidity in the snow. The snow is always good on piste. Um, the pistes are hard, but they're not icy.
Yeah.
There's there's most Norwegian ski resorts are tree lined, whereas you get to Hintertux, we've been there. Flat light day, it's flat light everywhere, and
Yeah.
that's how you ski. Verbier, Chavinia, Zermatt, you're up above the tree line, so you very rarely ski down under the tree line. Whereas up here, most of it is under the tree line. The tree line starts here 50 meters from the top of the mountain. One of the big things that is amazing in Norway for people who go on ski holidays, and that is we were talking about fitness, is people from the UK. You live just outside London, probably about 20 meters above sea level. When you go to Zermatt, you're going up to nearly 4,000 meters. We're just not used to that. You
No.
know, Verbier village is at 1,500 meters. Chivinia's 2,050. They're all around 2,000, 1,500. And it's knackering. When I arrive, I'm always the first 2 days just putting my bloody ski boots on.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In Norway, the bottom lift here is at 175 meters above sea level,
Wow.
and the top is 1,100. So you're already 500 meters lower at the top of the mountain than you are in Verbier. So you've got more energy to ski. You can ski longer because
Yeah.
you're using less energy because there's not as much altitude. Norway is the resorts are smaller, which some people go, you go to Three Valleys, we've got 400 kilometres of slope. How often can you ski 400 kilometres of slope? People are creatures of habit. They normally find 2 or 3 slopes
Yeah.
and ski them because they like it.
Yeah.
But here we've got about 40, 50 kilometres of slopes. But we've had the Olympics here. We've had the World Cup this winter. We got the World Cup next winter. Just up the road, we've got another ski resort called Kvitfjell. There, they've had the World Cup ski resort, World Cup downhill every year since 1992. Such is the quality of the mountain and the slopes. There's less people skiing here. It's not as busy as the Alps. Norway is snowshore. Yeah, it gets cold, but it also gets cold at 3,000 meters, but here, because it's smaller, you're close to a restaurant, or they've got these little huts all over the place. If it is really cold, you can go in, you can warm up. You're not as exposed as you are when you're in the Alps. When the weather comes in, it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's a very different experience than skiing in the Alps. I love skiing in the Alps, and I love going back, but I love skiing here. It's most of the places are you get a lot of ski in, ski out. The skiing is really good, and and also at the moment the Norwegian kroner is pretty good value to the pound. So
Oh, really?
Norway has this stigma about being expensive. Well, it's expensive in Zermatt and Verbier and Maribel as well.
Yeah, very.
So you are spending 10, 12 euros for a beer, and there's always this thing about, oh, price of beer costs this much. But it depends on what you're going for, isn't it? If you're going for a week on the piss, well, then go to Benidorm.
Yeah.
If you're going skiing and you want a quality ski holiday, the lift passes are generally cheaper. Accommodation is cheaper and better. You're not stuffed in a 10 square meter hotel room.
So what's the name of your resort that you're at now, like that you work at now?
So I work in a place called Harfjell, which is Hafjell, half gel, if you want to put it that way. Fjell being the same as you think of the Scottish fells, so it's a Germanic Scandinavian word. And up the road is Kvitfjell, which is Kvitfjell, and we're just 10 miles north of Lillehammer that had the Olympics in 1994.
Oh,
And
wow.
if you've seen the TV show Lilyhammer,
Yeah.
that's where I live.
Oh, wow.
So
What's a typical day price for a ticket there? Come December or January, what like if someone wanted to ski for the day, what would a typical price be?
probably I'd say about 35 quid, 40 quid with a
Wow. Oh,
current.
wow. So that's significantly cheaper then.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Um,
and the, and I think for a week it's probably about 180 quid.
wow. Yeah. I
And you
mean,
get
that's
three
half price.
resorts on that as well. They're not, you can't ski to them, you have to drive to them.
Yeah.
But you get three resorts. So if you've got a car, you can travel between them. And Harfiel is uh, very nice. It's very we don't. It's not industrial at all. If you go to Kvietfjell, that place is like a fairy tale. I mean, it's beautiful. There's nothing big, concrete, industrialized about it at all. It's got some of the best slopes in the world you'll ever ski. It's absolutely incredible there. And some days and I say this, some days you can ski alone for some part the first couple of hours. Norwegians don't go skiing until 11:30. So you get out in the morning and you've got these World Cup Olympic slopes that you can just hammer down, and there's no one on them.
Yeah. And the infrastructure is all basically the same sort of thing as if you was in Hintertux or something.
Yeah, chairlifts, gondolas, and it's all very modern. We've got new lifts coming up all the time. Um, the Kvitfjell has always been very proud that when the Olympics come along in different countries, often the guys who prep the slopes here are taken there to go and do some of the prepping for the Olympics because they're that good. They're really really sort of technically minded. They want the slopes to be perfect. You never come around a corner here and find the prep machine's been up and been down and there's a 30 centimetre height difference.
Yeah.
Normally it is corduroy
And
from side to
and
side.
it's got all of the similar sort of thing. You can do all the normal off-piste stuff and everything else. It's basically just like a normal ski resort, just at
Yeah,
a
I mean
lower
here it's
altitude.
more here in Harfield and Clevefield it's more on piste.
Right.
It's not so much on because it's very tree lined. The trees are very very tight.
Oh, okay.
If you go to Opdal, which is the other ski resort we have in the lift pass, that's more off piste. And if you go to the west coast of Norway, that's very much more mountainous in the sense of more Alp-like.
Right.
There's a bit more off piste, or there's more off piste there. There's a place called Myrkdalen, which is like a tiny Japan. I mean, it just gets so much snow,
Really?
and that's loads and loads of off piste. But here where I am, if you like skiing on piste and like being challenged, it's a great place to come and ski. I mean, if you like carving, it's incredible. So
Oh,
big
really?
wide, big wide slopes, flat, and you can just hammer down them. And normally as well, you can ski. You ski from top to bottom and without stopping because we don't have that altitude thing that's in the picture in the Alps.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is making me miss skiing now. I can't wait. I'm definitely going to come there next year. But so you think it's a good place for beginners to come as well because of the sort of
Great place
nature
for
of it?
beginners. Absolutely. The thing about the Norway or the mountains here where we are as well is that it's steeper at the bottom, and at the top it's as flat as a pancake.
Ah,
So it's not like going to the Alps where everything gets pointy the higher up you go. So all of our beginner slopes are, we've got beginner slopes at the bottom, in the middle, and at the very very top. So you on once you've done your first day, maybe two, depending on your ability, you can normally go all the way to the top of the mountain
oh
here
wow.
on day two or three. So if you've never skied before, or if you're a beginner, all our green slopes start at the very, very top, the very, very top.
Oh wow. And
So
for instructors, it's all sort of similar prices and everything that
yeah,
it would be
I'd say
anywhere else.
probably a bit cheaper.
Oh wow.
And what I do is I have my little setup is called We Free Ski, um, and more. I do instructor courses and then more performance courses. So if any of you listeners are wanting to look into it, it's We Free Ski. I think it's WE with a hyphen freeski.com. And I do performance courses at your level. I can do bespoke stuff, or if there's a group one up, you can join into that, or just send me an email, see if I've got something set up. But I don't do ski lessons per se. So that's for the ski school. They do that. We have an agreement that they do their thing and I do my thing. So then there's no conflict and everybody's happy. But
So,
if you
so
want to
you're
come,
doing like camp type stuff, are you? Like,
yeah, I mean, camps, I don't call them camps. I think it's more just, if people want to come out for a week, then we can ski with each other for, 3 hours in the morning, and then, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we'll find a price that works, and then there will be a program. So as I say, we'll start here, and by the end of the week, we'll get you there. So then people are coming here to ski specifically with me rather than just a random tourist that turns up and wants to book me for a lesson. So I don't do that, and that's because of an agreement that we have with the ski resort and the ski school.
oh
So
wow. So, but if people want to come out there for a holiday and they want to book you for some like days lessons, they can just contact you and just see if you're available, and then they can book in and come up with a plan over the days that they're
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Oh, amazing. Well, I'll leave the link to your website. I'll put in all of the show notes and stuff.
mm,
So the links will be down there. But what else was I going to say? What is the typical season? Same sort of thing, like
same as the
December
Alps.
to April, that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
same as the
And
Alps.
and have you got particular times that you think are good for people to come? For whatever reasons, prices or busyness or snow or
I mean, yeah, I mean December's same as anywhere. It can be, it can be anything, can't it?
yeah.
We've 2 years ago we were open. The whole mountain was open in the middle of November, and then last year it didn't open until 20th of December. It just there wasn't snow. It was snow higher up, but not most of the mountain was. This year we hope it'll all be open early as per normal. Straight after Christmas through to sort of what we call week 6, week 7. That's up until the middle of February. There's no one on the mountain. I mean, it's empty.
Yeah.
So if you got kids, you have to travel in school holidays. But a busy day here is like a quiet day in the Alps.
Yeah, because I think I'm going to try and come the first week of February. I think,
Yeah, it's
just
normally
before
really
that.
quiet there.
Yeah, I would like to try and come then. And in terms of like travel arrangements and whatnot, do you fly into Oslo?
Oslo Gardermoen, yeah, we got several airports, but you want to go to OSL Oslo Gardermoen, and you can. I mean, it's an hour and a half drive. It's one straight road. You come out the airport, turn left, and you drive into Hafjell. It's 2 minutes off of the motorway, so you're not driving up mountains and through mountain passes. Train directly from the airport straight to Lillehammer. And then there's buses or taxis up to the resort, or you can live in Lillehammer and get the bus up every day. It's 20 minutes on a bus. Or like I say, if you rent a car, then you just drive up and stay in Harfield or wherever you want to go. It's really simple, really easy to do.
And you can you get public transport between the three resorts that are part of your
You
resort?
can get it. It's you can get the train, but so Harfield to Opdal is about 2.5 hour journey, which is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
So you're going over high mountain passes and all sorts. Kvidfjell, you'll need a car to get there. Yeah, it's if you rent a car, it's I think half 35-minute drive. So up to Kvidfjell, and it really is an amazing special place. It's incredible.
And
So
what are you booked onto any exam type teaching already this year? Have you got all your
yeah,
dates? What tell us some of your plans about where you're going and what you're doing for that stuff.
I've got the first one of the year is always the amazing Hemel Hempstead,
Ah,
which I love actually. It's a telemark course. I do that
oh wow.
level one telemark course at the end of October. And then start of November, I'm going back out to Hintertux to do a private course for the police, I think.
Oh wow.
So I think it's for the police. I haven't quite looked at those.
The British police.
Yeah, yeah,
Blimey. Yeah, well,
so,
we do have a lot of snow here, so you have to.
yeah, yeah. So hopefully they're paying for it themselves.
Yeah, crikey, yeah. Oh wow.
And then I've got some other stuff booked up through the winter, but I'm focusing mainly on being here this winter. So
Where was the last place you went for your own skiing that wasn't Norway?
oh, Dolomites
Oh
last
really?
in February last year. Yeah,
What was that with, like, friends, family,
yeah,
or?
yeah.
Oh wow.
Actually, a guy I met I did before I skied with you. I did a level 2 in Zermatt. You were there doing the stomp camp. We
Yeah,
found out the same week,
yeah.
and I was doing a level 2. And one of the guests on that course, an Italian guy, invited me out to ski with him and his family in Dolomites.
Oh
So
wow.
and that was
What
amazing.
resort did you go to there? Oh,
Oh, we
sorry.
went all around. We stayed with him in his place just in the Dolomites in a village, and then we went to Alta Badia, we went to Cortina, we went to Valgadena, we went and skied around the Sella and wow, it was amazing, incredible
Was
place.
that the first time you've been there?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh wow. And how do you sort of rate that experience compared to, Verbier and all the other places you've been?
I
Was
think
that sort of?
Verbier is amazing because it's in my opinion it's the best lift based off piste skiing in the world.
Yeah.
The piste skiing in Verbier itself isn't great, but it is good piste skiing elsewhere. And I think that was incredible because I skied for 4 days, and I think I took the same. I think I took 3 lifts twice, and I skied for 4 days. Otherwise, it was new slopes and new lifts for 4 days,
Wow.
non-stop. Never skied the same piece. Never skied the same slope. Never took the same lift, except for I think 3 lifts we took twice.
What was your favourite resort of the ones you went to? Do you remember?
Um, Cortina. Cortina was great.
That's a beautiful town, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, yeah. But they had this other section where it's only blacks and reds,
Oh.
no blues, no greens. So it was amazing skiing.
Oh
So
wow.
this big cable car really high up over this ridge, and then just this sort of own little section that you can only get to by this mad cable car. Awesome place, just amazing.
Yeah, yeah, I would like to go. We do keep teasing it, but we've built up like these places that we quite like now. And like you said earlier, like we're creatures of habit. And
Yeah,
I mean, I've been really blessed because in less than 2 years, I think I've been to 30, 40 different ski resorts. But of all the ones that I've been to, there's some that I just keep like going back to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and not necessarily because they're the best skiing either, but just because like as our group, it kind of works for us, if you know what I mean, like the location and the restaurants and this, that, and the other. But yeah, at some point, I need to give one of them trips up and go to the Dolomites because I do badly want to
that's
do
incredible.
those. Yeah, because in
Absolutely.
fact, last year I went to Have you ever been to Pila?
Long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, Pila, I was not expecting it to be anything good at all. And no, it hasn't got like the Courchevel or the Cortina town or anything like that. But the actual ski slopes in Pila were maybe the best ones I've been on out of all of the different resorts I've been on. There, it was just unbelievable, that place, and the detail in their pisting as well was better than I've seen anywhere. Like, because they say that Courchevel is like renowned for their good pistes, but their pisting is not good at all. The amount of times we went there, I went there for weeks last season, and quite often half their slopes aren't even groomed on a daily basis. Like, you know, and it's apparently Courchevel is meant to be like the best place in the world for grooming, but Pila was on a whole different level of pisting, and the quality of the slopes, just the way it was organised as well. I absolutely loved it there, and Cervinia is one of my favourite places to ski because it's just big, wide motorways, not too steep, like right up my street.
Oh, you're gonna love it
Skiing,
here then.
yeah, which is so. When you were talking about that earlier, I was thinking, oh yeah, I love that because whenever I watch the people skiing in Japan, I'm not really interested in the off-piste stuff yet. But when I watch like those interski guys and the really technical guys doing the, you know, their carved runs and their short turns down the piste, I'm kind of imagining that's what it's like in Norway because it's like these big tree lined, like straight, wide pistes. Is
Yeah,
that kind of the sort of
yeah,
thing that I'm thinking?
yeah. It's very rolly as well, so it's constantly moving. There's always something going on. You know, you ski the same slope 30 times and it feels different because there's always terrain change. You know, it's
Yeah,
they haven't had to do too much to the slopes when they made them. You know, they just cut the trees down and made it flattish. You know, they didn't have to
yeah,
manicure, do filling or anything like that. It's they've just used the terrain very, very smartly.
yeah. Because that's a little bit like what Peeler is like. Peeler, you get quite, they're not steep, but they're fairly steep, like red runs. But this, if they, that steep part only goes on for a few hundred yards, and then it sort of flattens out for a very small amount of time. Then it's back into another sort of different steep bit, and then it flattens out. But it's not like these long, really steep, continuous. You know, like in Hinstuck, they're just
Yeah, just keeps going.
yeah, which I loved because it allowed you to sort of have some fun on the steep bits, but then you didn't really have to worry about your speed because as they sort of rolled off, they were slowing you down anyway, and it just made for the skin just to be super enjoyable.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so that sounds incredible. But what I'll do is I'll leave Scott's link to his website in the description for on YouTube. If you're on a podcast, which is where most people listen, and I'll put it in the notes so they can get in contact with Scott. But just to finish off, yeah, like the week I spent with Scott, I've already spoken about it a lot, but it was a huge change in my skiing. So I think if you can go and spend a few days with you, you'll really, really push on. The nice thing as well is when I finished with you, I can't remember where I think I went to Val d'Isere actually.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was meant to go to Zermatt, but they had those mental storms. So I think I went to Val d'Isere, and actually it was the best skiing I've ever done in my life because I'd just come off the back of that week with you, and I had all that stuff in my mind, and and I could do it just for myself. So it felt like this liberating experience. But they also had like 2 meters of snow in 3 days or something, and there was no one there. So it was just the most sensational like skiing I've ever had. But bringing together all the things that you had taught me in combination with having the freedom to do it, along with no one being on the piste and the perfect snow, it was this euphoric time, if you know what I mean. You must have had those.
You've buggered yourself now because you're never going to get that again.
No, I'll probably never get that again, but it was absolutely unreal because you come off the back of that course and it is quite intense, but well, in fact, it was very intense, but um, the amount of learning that you're doing, but the ability to take all those things and then enjoy it for yourself I just don't think there's many things that feel better than that. Do you know what I mean? It just was unbelievable because all of a sudden I felt like I was skiing on a whole new level that I'd ever done. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. So yeah, I highly recommend go spend some time with Scott because your teaching is quite different to other people's. I've always found that with all the all my good ski instructors, and most of them have been very, very good, I must say. They all say the same thing differently, if that makes sense. And
Yeah, it's
actually,
not rocket science, is how it's put.
yeah, but I would take because one thing that they would say would be said in a way that I understood it. You'd kind of take one thing from each person, and then you're adding these little things like into your arsenal as you're moving forward. But yours was quite different to that in the fact that I don't know, a lot more of it made sense if you know what I mean. Like with a lot of people, I was waiting for that one little moment where they would say something and it would click, and then you go with another person and they would say another thing that clicked, but they're actually saying what the other people said. They're just saying it in a different way. But I think where you teach other instructors quite a lot how to teach, I think that adds a certain level of I don't know, like ability to put things across that is different for someone who doesn't teach instructors, if that makes
You know,
sense.
I've always taken on information very simply, so I try and put it back simply. And I think that if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it yourself.
True, yeah.
And one of my great mentors, a Norwegian guys, he just says he says keep it simple and stupid. You know,
Yeah.
KISS, and
Yeah.
that's it. Keep it simple and stupid. Do this, do that. There you go. You know, you don't have to stand there for 20 minutes rapping on about all sorts of stuff. As I said, push the ski down and turn it. That's what you do. The rest is details.
Yeah. Yeah. And if anyone is highly interested in their skiing and they want to do like progress, I think doing the level 1, level 2 is just such a good way to do it. I really do think that it's just such an incredible way to do it because the other part of it is as well when you're constantly thinking about how you would tell that to another person, I think you have to interpret things differently than when you're just applying it to yourself. And I think it's hugely beneficial for your own skiing to think actually about how would I take what they've just said and tell that to another person is so different to just then you doing it. It adds a
Yeah.
whole nother level of understanding, I think. So yeah, if anyone wants to do those level 1s, level 2s, I'll put a link as well in there to Ali's thing. Can't remember what it's called now.
Ski definition.
Yeah, sorry, ski definition. Yeah, because that is definitely worth doing. In fact, one of the people that was on my Stomp It camp, he's doing his level 1 with Ali and fairly soon. So, and then we're doing it again in our Stomp It again in December, like the two of us. So that'll be fun to see if we
Very
how we
good.
both got on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think what's important is it depends on the journey. You know, do you want to be a ski instructor? You want to work as a ski instructor? Then there's the stress of passing. If you're not going to, then it's as we said, it's a great value. You get so much more. So whether you
incredible.
pass or not, if you pass, brilliant bonus.
Yeah, yeah, no, it
Um,
is incredible. I can't recommend it enough because I didn't do my course. I said it before. I didn't do it with the intention of passing. I always thought, well, that would be amazing, obviously, just because it makes you feel like you've achieved something. But the learning that you get on that course is off the chart, and it not only from you as well, but also from the other people as well. Not necessarily what they tell you, but what you tell them. If
yeah.
that makes sense.
Well, you're seeing. You know, we had what do we have? 8 people, 8 different height sizes. You know, we had can't remember his name. Is it Duncan?
Yeah, tall
2
Duncan.
meters
Yeah,
tall. And then we had Sandy, 5 foot tall. You know, and so it just goes to show everybody's different. Everyone's a different shape and size. You know, so you're starting to see how you deal with different people and how you give that information and make it work.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I actually would do it again as well. And to the point, I actually would love my wife to do it as well. She's got no interest in it really whatsoever, but I might force her to do it at some point. Because I forced her to do a camp in Hintertux actually, at the beginning of November. She's going on her own. She's doing like the whole thing, the driving, the whole lot on her own, which she's like really nervous about. But I'm super excited for her because all I've ever done is meet great people, had a great time, learned loads of stuff, progressed my skiing, which makes me enjoy it more, which is the biggest point of the whole thing. Um, and have good memories. So it's like I kind of, you know, like when you love something so much you want to share it. You know, like you get a great meal at a restaurant, and the first thing you really want to do is like give it to your daughter or your, you know, your friend or whatever to say, try this. This is unreal. Because it's not as good, is it, if someone else doesn't like justify? And where I've enjoyed
Need
all these,
confirmation.
yeah, where I've enjoyed these things so much, I want her to feel like the same that I did. Do you know what I mean? So I've booked her on one, but I don't think she's got the same attitude that I have. But we'll find out. But yeah, thanks for your time, Scott. It's been nice to catch up.
You're
So
welcome.
when you're over for Hemel, what are you here for a whole week?
Yeah, I do 5 days course. So I think I literally fly in, punish myself with a week of telemarking, and then fly home with really sore legs. But
Oh wow.
normally train them up well enough before I go.
Oh, you'll have to let me know the dates then, because I'll probably try and pop over and see, or you
Yeah.
can come and stay here for the night or something like that. We take
Yeah.
you out for a meal or something like that.
Sounds like a plan.
But yeah, I'll catch up with you soon anyway. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate
Cheers,
that.
mate.
Take care, mate. Thanks a lot.
Speak to you later.
See ya. Bye bye. Yeah, that's it. Cheers, mate.